Yeah, what's going on, family? It's your man B Miles coming to you live once again with another live stream. Tonight is going to be a very special night. For Indigenous people, which is us as Indigenous original people. And tonight I'm actually going to be featuring Noble Isaiah L. He's actually going to reveal some great information to the family, and he's going to be on here soon tonight. And this is definitely going to be some wonderful, great information that the family is going to need to hear, and the family is going to need to learn. And even also, as well, the family is going to be, you know, put it like this: y'all in for a treat tonight. Y'all in for a treat tonight, and I definitely will say, y'all definitely gotta. I definitely will say you're going to be researching some great information. Hey Chi Chi, hey Detroit 313, what's going on with y'all? All right, I see 10 of y'all in the chat. All right, I see. All right, y'all coming in. Like, share, and subscribe, family. Like, share, subscribe, family. Yes. So I definitely will say that, we don't celebrate Columbus Day because, you know, we know who that bastard is and stuff like that. We don't celebrate Columbus because that man, or that bastard, as they say, was he didn't discover anything. So this is going to be, some incredibly, excuse me, I'm sorry, D'Angelo Carroll, he really rivers. Yeah, some very great information that I firmly believe that the family is going to find great, incredibly great, and it's definitely something that the family is going to need to know about and need to learn and stuff like that as well. And I'm just like I'm super excited, and I'm like I said for the chat, y'all give Noble Isaiah L. Some time. I sent him the link. He's definitely going to be on. He's setting everything up right about now. And I must say, I'm definitely ready for a treat tonight for the family, and I can't wait for the information, that he's going to bring. And this is something that, a lot of this information has been hidden from us, and now it's about that time we got to pull this thing back. Now we definitely going to go on with this right here, and this information is going to be brought to the fam tonight. Yes, it is. It's definitely good to see everybody inside of the chat. I hope everybody is getting a notification. It seems like, some of y'all been getting notifications, some of y'all have not, and stuff like that. But like I said, I'm still glad to hold this live stream tonight. For the family and stuff like that. Did a couple videos early. I'm glad that the family, y'all, I'm loving the information. What's been going on? What's been coming about? And as I said, family, y'all in for a treat tonight. Definitely going to be in for a treat tonight. And as I said, okay. All right. I see y'all coming up in here, fam. So like I said, fam, just give him some time and stuff like that for real family. And give me a brief intermission real quick. And I'll be right back. So like I said, fam, y'all can greet one another, stuff like that. And definitely go ahead and get ready. I just want to take a brief intermission real quick. Be right back. All right, yeah, fam, I'm back. I'm definitely back, fam. All right. All right. Like I said, we back up in here once again, though, fam. And as I said, just give the brother some time. But I hope everybody, is having a good time tonight. Y'all doing pretty fine. And I definitely will say I'm doing pretty great. And I'm just hoping that the chat is going to get even bigger and I'm stronger, stuff like that. I see we got 26 in the chat. I just hope that they not messing with the algorithm and stuff like that. I guess they probably doing it because, they want to celebrate Columbus, but we know what day this is. This is really for us, the indigenous peoples. And trust and believe me, like more and more people is going to be on the chat and stuff like that. Peace to everybody that is on here. Peace to everybody that is on here on this chat because we have a wonderful time tonight. And it's on this journey with us. I definitely want to say y'all better be strapped in tonight. Y'all better be strapped in tonight because I can't wait. I told myself, besides me watching entertainment tonight and stuff like that, or whatever, for the fam, to check out this great information. Hey, Lisa Mendez, it's good to see a lot of followers who've been following the platform for quite some time on here, and it's good to see some new faces. It's really good to see new faces on here. It's definitely good to, to see everybody on here as well. And as I said, man, like I noticed y'all been seeing like a lot of stuff that's been taking place around the globe, around the planet, and the original people need to take heed the most to what's going on and to what is happening, on our planet and what is taking place. Because as Isaiah tell us all the time, he said that the universe has already chose who's going to lead it. So now it's about that time that we got to go forward and we got to be on our job because we're at a time where the whole world is waiting on us. The whole entire world is waiting on us. Is waiting on us. Is waiting for us to wake up. They are waiting on us to wake up for real. They waiting for us to wake up. We gotta, come back and claim, who we really are. We're not none of those titles. We're not Negro, Black, and colored. We're not African Americans. None of that stuff. So now it's about that time that the family, we must know who we are. We must finally start to know who we are. And at the same time, we're not going to argue with you. We're not going to debate against it. No, none of that. Because anything that is real doesn't need to be debated anyway. I feel as though debates are there to try to really show like who can, you know what I mean? I just think it's a waste of time. I just think it's a waste of time. I just think it's just you all out there trying to prove something, trying to prove who's right and who's wrong. Because the truth in this day and time doesn't need no debate. The truth is going to be right here in your face. It's going to be right here in your face, and we're not going to apologize for it. And we need to stop to apologizing for who we really are as a people. We really need to stop that. We need to stop apologizing for who we are as a people and move forward with it. Because guess what? Like I told you before in Nasara mainly deals with us. Because it deals with us and the whole entire planet. But it's going to start with us. So how can we, like we could talk about history. We could talk about it all day long. We could talk about history. We could talk about this. We could talk about that. A lot of this stuff. All of this stuff. But until we start really knowing who we are and going forward with it, let me tell you something. It's a waste of time. Because we don't have no time for no debates out here. We don't. We don't have no time for debates out here. That's right. Yeah, we're not arguing with nobody. Because where we are it's like this, man. Where we are on this planet right about now, it is a very critical time. And we must know who we are as a people going forward. We must know who we are as a people going forward. I'm talking about truthfully, not nobody else's definition, not what no bootleg ass member is telling us. Not what no goddamn agent is telling us. Not what a lot of these goddamn people, but no substantial evidence or whatsoever. Not even trying to bring the goddamn receipts. No. As you know, on this platform, we love to bring receipts. And it's not about trying to prove any, you know what I mean? Not trying to like prove anybody wrong, but you know, if we got the truth and all that, then we're gonna bring it. And we're gonna bring it. We're gonna bring the truth and we're gonna let you know what it is. We're not gonna be we're not in the business of like, trying to tell people, if you don't like it, you can unsubscribe or anything of that nature. No, we're not gonna do that. Because we cleared up, what I'm saying, behind the scenes, me and Isaiah, we cleaned up, a lot of negative energy that we both would see. So it's a lot of things that's going to be coming towards this platform. And like I said, we're in a great season, in a great time right now. And I hope family, I hope that y'all are really strapped in. I want to say peace to everybody. I'm glad that family is out here right now. And like I said, give me 1 second real quick. Just want to take a brief intermission. Just want to check on the brother. Just make sure everything is okay. Give me 1 second. All right, I'm back. Hey, what's up? I'm out my head. Peace. Peace, more. Peace, peace, peace. All right, I'm just checking on the brother. Sent the link to him again. He said he should be joining us real shortly, fam. He should be joining us real shortly, fam. So just hold on again 1 second. Just want to check, make sure everything in the background is okay. All right, yes, fam, I'm back. And have y'all been seeing what's been going on around our planet? Have y'all been seeing lately what has been going on? Have y'all been seeing that? Have y'all been paying attention to everything what's been going on? I mean, can't we see that right about now we are in the time where this earth is being cleansed? Can't y'all see? Hey, Stephanie Davis. Hey, PH. Can't y'all see that? Can't y'all see the sign of the times that we're in? I think we're getting clear signs. All right, okay, cool. All right, great. Just got the message from him. No, but Isaiah L is going to be coming on real shortly. He's going to be coming on, matter of fact, right about now. Oh, yes, Abiola. Yeah, Detroit, Yellowstone is very active. Yes, it is. Very active. Yup, volcanoes, floods, and fires. Abiola, that's right. Mm. And you wouldn't believe what I saw today. I saw two eagles fly over my house in Baltimore today. I saw two eagles fly over me today. Two big eagles fly over me today. And I showed the pictures to Nobody's there. He could not believe it. All right, okay, great. Here he is. There he is. There he is. Peace, more. Peace to you, Nobody's there. Peace.
Peace and love, more everything.
Oh man, wonderful man. Great to have you back on, man. You look really excited, man. You look happy, man. I'm really excited for you, man.
Oh yeah.
And the whole chat is well. I'm ready for you, boy. And here he is, Noble Isaiah family. And I yield the floor. Going to rock.
All right. Peace and love, everyone. Happy Indigenous Peoples Day. We know that that term Indigenous has been used a lot and thrown at our people. And a lot of people are claiming that they are Indigenous. And Indigenous simply means one who is domiciling or staying on or near a territory. We know that when you say terms like I live at 1405 Taste Drive, this puts you under a certain jurisdiction because you live in your skin. So you can only live in your own body, in your own temple. So we don't live within corporate jurisdictions of fictitious entities like the United States Corporation. So want to cover, briefly on the treatise, The Rights of Indigenous People, uh, that was actually formulated by the United Nations, which is actually another topic we can get into how much fraud that they're committing. But the Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People was actually put into place for Indigenous people, okay, around the different territories. And the United Nations have in their charter, there's many different signatories, people who signed on to the charter uh, for the United Nations, but then there's also some people or different nations that signed on to the rights of Indigenous people. And you'll notice the key uh, players who did not sign on to the rights of Indigenous people on purpose. Um, and so the Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People can be found online. You can actually go to the United Nations website, or you can actually just pull it up on Google and download the PDF and pull it down that way. I just want to read, I have the actual book form of it. I'm going to read some of the key points, and we're not going to be able to cover or touch on all of it, but we'll try to get as much as needed for this time, and you'll be able to formulate some good ideas on what's going on and what have been done to our people, and some possible things that could be done. So their charter has a preamble. I won't read that. You can actually read that on the United Nations itself website. But I'm going to get into the actual document, the rights of Indigenous people. This was amended in 1994. Here you have, it says, affirming the Indigenous people are equal in dignity and rights to all other people, while recognizing the rights of all peoples to be different, to consider themselves different, and to be respected as such. Affirming also that all people contribute to the diversity and richness of civilizations and cultures which constitute the common heritage of humankind. Affirming further that all doctrines, policies, and practices based on or advocating superiority of peoples or individuals on the basis of national origin, racial, religious, ethnic, or cultural differences are racist, scientifically false, legally invalid, morally condemnable, and socially unjust. Reaffirming also that indigenous peoples, in the exercise of their rights, should be free from discrimination of any kind. Concerned, the indigenous peoples have been deprived of their human rights and fundamental freedoms, resulting inter alia in their colonization and dispossession of their lands, territories, and resources, thus preventing them from exercising, in particular, their rights to development in accordance with their own needs and interests. Recognizing the urgent need to respect and promote the inherent rights to their lands, territories, and resources which derive from their political, economic, and social structure, and from their cultural, spiritual traditions, histories, and philosophies. Welcoming the fact that indigenous peoples are organizing themselves for political, economic, social, and cultural enhancement, and in order to bring an end to all forms of discrimination and oppression where they occur. So, this is the uh, actual declaration, and then it continues on the next page. Convinced that control by indigenous peoples over developments affecting them and their lands, territories, and resources will enable them to maintain and strengthen their institutions, cultures, and traditions, and to promote their development in accordance with their aspirations and needs. Recognizing also that respect for indigenous knowledge, cultures, and traditional practices contributes to sustainable and equitable development and proper management of the environment, emphasizing the need for demilitarization of the lands and territories of indigenous peoples, which will contribute to peace and economic and social progress and development, understanding, and friendly relation among nations and the peoples of the world. Recognizing in particular the right of indigenous families and communities to retain shared responsibility for the upbringing, training, education, and well being of their children, recognizing also that indigenous people have the right to freely to determine their relationship with the states in a spirit of coexistence, mutual benefit, and full respect, considering that treaties, agreements, and other arrangements between states and indigenous peoples are properly matters of international concern and responsibility, acknowledging that the Charter of the United Nations, the International Covenant of Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights affirms the fundamental importance of the right of self determination of all peoples, by virtue of which they freely determine their political status and freely pursue their economic and social and cultural development, bearing in mind that nothing in this declaration may be used to deny any people their right of self determination, encouraging states to comply with and effectively implement all international instruments, in particular those related to human rights, as they apply to indigenous peoples in consultation and cooperation with the peoples concerned, emphasizing that the United Nations has an important and continuing role to play in promoting and protecting the rights of indigenous people, believing that this declaration is a further important step forward for the recognition, promotion, and protection of the rights and freedoms of indigenous people and in the development of relevant activities of the United Nations system in this field, solemnly proclaims the following United Nations Declaration on the rights of indigenous people. Okay, so this is just the proclamation, the precursor to this actual document. Now you got to ask yourself, why would a document, the rights of indigenous people, need to be put together in the first place? Why would they need to create this? That's because the rights, and when we're talking about rights, we have to be specific, because in law, everything is specific. So when we talk about rights, you probably remember from the 50s and 60s, civil rights. If you look up what civil rights mean in law, civil rights deals with those who fall under a dead status, colored persons, colored people, civil, actually dealing with those people who have no rights. So while our ancestors were doing a lot of things as far as fighting on the front lines, so to speak, against in racial injustices and things like that, they were actually arguing the wrong type of rights in law. Okay, there's something that comes before civil rights, which is birthrights, and your birthrights are unalienable, meaning you cannot place a lien, tax, or sell, or you cannot buy, sell, or trade your rights. And then you have inalienable, which you can buy, sell, and trade rights. So you have unalienable birthrights that are divine, that are given to you from your creator. Um, Everyone has a birthright because everyone is born. And so all nations of the earth have nationals, and these nationals, they all come from their national origin in a nation, and they have birthrights. Okay, and these birthrights for us around the world have been abridged, meaning they have been usurped, stolen, and violated by colonizers who are claiming to be government, true government. True government is not just merely the public officials that represent you. True government is the people and the power of the people. And so wherever you say the government, you're thinking wrong. Whenever you say the government or they or them, you're thinking wrong. If you think of government as outside of yourself, that's wrong. And this is how they're able to reinforce this in school and in everyday life because they have instruments to back up their mindset. And some of these instruments that they use are are actually in place to steal your birthrights and get you to focus on being a citizen of their corporation, their corporate employee system. So a lot of your rights, most of your rights are exchanged for privileges. You have birthrights and they're natural and divine. And then what we do is waive our rights in law and we give up our birthrights for privileges that they give out through each state corporation company, which is styled as Maryland, the state of Maryland, the state of Virginia, the state of New York, the state of Pennsylvania, the state of uh, Mississippi, you name it. All of these different state ofs are actually corporate in nature, and it doesn't. That these state ofs does not apply to the original jurisdiction. They have again stolen your birthrights, and they get you to participate in this theft. So it's so bad, and it was so bad back then, and it's still the same way now that they actually had to make this document, the rights of indigenous people, to actually get people in a thought process of what their actual rights are. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Part 1, Article 1. Indigenous people have the right to the full and effective enjoyment of all human rights and fundamental freedoms recognized in the Charter of the United Nations, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and international human rights law. So you have human rights. During the 50s, 60s, 70s, they wasn't arguing during the civil rights era. They weren't arguing human rights. They were saying we're human, but you're arguing civil, which leads to color of law. Color of law deals with fake law. Those people who call themselves something that they're not in law, and then they have privileges and codes and statutes that apply to those people who call themselves something that they're not. They can't identify with land. They can identify with a nation. And so Article 2, it says indigenous individuals and peoples are free and equal to all other individuals and peoples in dignity and rights and have the right to be free from any kind of adverse discrimination, in particular that based on their indigenous origin or identity. So when it comes down to proving that you're indigenous to the planet or to a specific territory, you don't have to um, prove anything. They already know who you are in law as far as your status is concerned. Indigenous is not a status, it's a designation. Your status is your standing in law, and it actually goes to personam jurisdiction for those who know law. What personam jurisdiction meaning you're in your proper person. So they have to set up these articles to highlight on so many different levels how our rights are being abridged. Article 3, indigenous people have the right of self-determination. So when they tell you that you're Negro, black, color, etc., and all the rest you fill in the blank, you have the right of self-determination. By virtue of that right, they freely determine their political status. And this is huge because status is the most important thing in law. And freely pursue their economic, social, and cultural development. So in law, you must proclaim your status. Your status literally deals with your estate. And so when you say that you know, Negro, black, or color, or any other brand or tag, that actually makes you a stateless person. That actually hypothecates your birthright. You actually waive your right, and you give up your rights, your birthrights, to other foreigners to control. Article 4, indigenous people have the right to maintain and strengthen their distinct political, economic, and social and cultural characteristics, as well as their distinct political, economic, social, and cultural life of the state. So you're dealing with different jurisdiction. You're dealing with um, being in a completely different political jurisdiction than that of the state of. And this is important because if you have your own nation state, you can determine your own future and destiny. You can control your own resources. And this is what a lot of our people complain about every day. And this is the true remedy: nationhood. Coming together as a nation, you actually are able to plot your own course for success. And you see, it says, Article 5, every indigenous individual has the right to a nationality. So just because you say I'm indigenous or aboriginal or autochthonous, meaning indigenous people just domicile or live on the earth. Aboriginal, you're the first one to descend and be the first one on the estate. And then autochthonous, meaning you come from the rocks itself. Just because you claim these different designations, it doesn't negate to, or doesn't allude to, your standing in law. That's just a designation. You have a lot of $5 Indians, quote unquote, claiming your status because they're paying their way in, but they haven't declared their nationality. Your nationality, everyone has a right to a name and nationality, and there's nations of the earth, and these nations have different uh, things in common. For example, they have 6 things in common that you can list, and some have, have more than that. Uh, every nation has a flag, a land, okay, law, language, customs, traditions, and religion, if you want to say. So nations have these different things in common under common law. And so if you're claiming indigenous, if you're claiming um, uh, aboriginal or autochthonous, you still have to claim your nationality. What nation are you falling under? A lot of times we just give up our birthright by saying, "This is America." I know you heard that song, "This is America," um, but this is America, and you're the true American. And according to Noah Webster's 1828 dictionary, the definition of an American is the uh, Aboriginal, the copper-colored races found here in America by the Europeans, but now applied to the Europeans and their descendants. So in that definition, it highlights where our birthright was stolen. Many of us was already on this land before they talked about Christopher Columbus coming here to set sail, which he never really made it here. He went to some islands allegedly, and actually um, he got his sanction from a time way back in 1492 to come back over here to escheat the land of the Americans, because this was the new world. They wanted to actually gain a new jurisdiction over here. And they have a whole treatise on that, papal bulls, because it's all connected with the church. The church and the state are not separate, they're together. And they actually had a mission to have these crusades against not just Moors, but also all peoples on all land, taking their estate all over the world. So everyone has going back to Article 5, every indigenous individual has the right to a nationality. The question is, for everyone watching, what is your nationality? This is your duty as a national or person to find out and research. I'm not going to tell you you're this, you're that. That's where you have your free will. Part 2, Article 6, Indigenous people have the collective right to live in freedom, peace, and security as distinct people and to full guarantees against genocide or any other act of violence, including the removal of Indigenous children from their families and communities under any pretext. In addition, they have the individual rights to life, physical and mental integrity, liberty, and security of person. How many of our people uh, have had the Department of Child Protective Services kidnap and take your children from the home because they thought that you were unfit to raise them, or because you wasn't sending them to the indoctrination school system, or whatever the case was. Um, Article 6 highlights your collective right to not have your children, and not just your children, but any of your people, your kindred, loved ones taken and kidnapped. Okay, that's a violation of this document. Um, Article 7, Indigenous people have the collective and individual right not to be subjected to ethnocide and cultural genocide, including prevention of and redress for A, any action which has the aim or effect of depriving them of their integrity as distinct people or of their cultural values of ethnic identities. B, any action which has the aim or effect of dispossessing them from of their lands, territories, or resources. C, any form of population transfer, and that's gentrification, redlining, red zoning, real estate, which has the aim or effort or effect of violating or undermining any of their rights. And you really don't, if you stay in good neighborhoods and things like that, if you don't control your resources, um, you don't have portions of land, you really don't can't consider yourself a member of that community because you can be controlled through gentrification by simply them just going up on the rent or the mortgage, quote unquote. And that's a whole nother topic. But um, D, any form of assimilation or integration by other cultures or ways life imposed on them by legislative, administrative, or other measures. So this is happening to us on a daily basis where you have administrators writing statutes and codes to gentrify and allow gentrification and allow um, your not just your kindred, your immediate kindred, but also other people in your neighborhood that look like you to be removed and have different codes that applies to them. So when you say I'm black in law, there's codes that apply to being black. It's called color of law, and color of law is uh, to put it simply, it could be white male, black male. That's color of law. They're not identifying a nation, your national origin or pedigree. They're identifying you as a color, a crayon. And so when I do that, there's certain statutes and codes that apply to certain colors. And so this is how they're able to violate your rights even more, because if they don't tell your national origin, um, that means they're not telling theirs either, and that's hiding them from being brought up on international violations. Okay. E, any form of propaganda directed against them. We experience this on a daily basis, propaganda in the news about us being the ones committing the most crime. Um, we experience this uh, in the news for us always being painted in a certain image. Okay, now we do have to factor in our people that also contribute to that image, as far as painting that image with those positions of power behind the network or perceived power. But they're acting in treason as well with the propaganda that they're aiming towards us. Article 8, Indigenous people have the collective and individual right to maintain and develop their distinct identities and characteristics, including the right to identify themselves as Indigenous and to be recognized as such. Okay. Article 9, Indigenous peoples and the individuals have the right to belong to an indigenous community or nation. And we're not talking about the fictitious nations that they create when you have these Indian nations or indigenous nations that is connected to the federal or corporate United States government under Title 28 United States Code of Law. We're not talking about that one because what good is it to say that you're indigenous or you're aboriginal or you're different, but you're still connected to the colonizers? Then that's the difference. Article 9, indigenous peoples and individuals have the right to belong to an indigenous community or nation in accordance with the traditions and customs of the community or nation concerned. No disadvantage of any kind may arise from the exercise of such right. Okay. Article 10, and then I'm going to open it up. Article 10, indigenous people shall not be forcibly removed from their lands or territories. I know a lot of people can relate to that. You miss a couple alleged payments on a mortgage and then they want to foreclose, which by you signing it, it already is actually yours. And they forcibly remove you with uh, writs of execution from the sheriff or the alleged administrator acting as a judge. And this has happened on a daily basis. And all they do is go fill out a 1099A form. And that means that you abandon your property by getting removed from the property. So um, it says, no relocation shall take place. This is Article 10 still. No relocation shall take place without the free and informed consent of the indigenous people concerned and after agreement on just and fair compensation and where possible with the option of return. So you really have to take this into consideration. If they want you to move from your land, they have to compensate you and you have to agree to it. At first, it has to be mutual agreement and consent. You see what happened in South Africa where they was talking about re appropriation of land without any just compensation to the colonizers, to those who stole their land in the first place. So they wanted to take the land back from them, and they didn't not want to pay them or compensate them for the land because they had taken from the South Africans in the first place. And this is the same principle. They're removing our people from our own land and actually not compensating a lot of us, and then also uh, forcibly removing a lot of our people. Okay, and so this is a lot of these situations that's being highlighted in this document is actually still taking place today. And then I'll read. Uh, I'll finish out part one, and then we can take some dialogue and then go from there. Article 11, indigenous peoples have the right to special protection and security in periods of armed conflict. We're in that situation now. We should have our own special security. Uh, you can say that we're not at war. We are. The only thing is our people don't think we are because we can ride in a Hummer. We can go to the beach. We can go watch the game and stuff like that, but you're still under forced servitude. States shall observe international standards, in particular the Fourth Geneva Convention of 1949 for the protection of civilian populations in circumstances of emergency and armed conflict, and shall not a. recruit indigenous individuals against their will into the armed forces, and in particular for use against other indigenous people. This is a reference you can look up where Muhammad Ali told them no. They wanted to enlist him into their army. He said, no, I'm not going over there because the Viet Cong never did nothing to me. They never called me nigger and stuff like that. He didn't want to enlist. And he ended up winning that case. You can look it up because he used the principles that's right here and apply here. B, recruit indigenous children into the armed forces under any circumstances. So if you look at ages 18 and under, they can't even advertise and recruit to them. But of course, that's not true. They do that anyway, and subliminally, G.I. Joe, you name the different toys. Force indigenous individuals to abandon their lands, territories, or means of subsistence, or relocate them in special centers for military purposes. That's already been happening. It's about to happen more. They have the shielding programs with the CDC, and they also have the camps, internment camps that they have with the CDC and with FEMA. D, force indigenous individuals to work for military purposes under any discriminatory conditions. Okay, so that's all. This is part one of the rights of indigenous people. It's a lot. We can highlight and break this down word for word, but I definitely want to give you some of what this document is saying. And we'll open it up right now for anybody who have any questions, and then if not, we can continue. Um, uh, okay, so Lamy, Tori, Oculus Bay. Is it naive to expect right doings from fraudulent organizations? Exactly. Yeah, I think it's really naive to expect people who only seek to control and rule the world through deception and lies uh, to do something for you. And like they tell you, go stand in the line, Social Security. Uh, I might have a biscuit for you over there. You stand in the line and wait. By the time I get over there, depending on how I feel, they do that type of stuff, and we get excited. Um, Reparations, yay, and all this type of stuff. But um, in truth, they can't give you reparations because that's literally giving up power. They would lose power. The 10% can't control the 90 if they give up the estate. So I don't think that's going to happen. Um, and so that's why Mother Nature is working where they're at a negative birth rate. Okay, so uh, with so many people coming over the border right now, does that make our country weaker? Um, well, I wouldn't say it's weaker, um, because just think about this. I know they talk about people coming through the border and how there's so much crisis going on at the border, things like that. But think about how many people come over here on a visa and they don't renew the visa and they just been over here for years. A lot of Chinese and different nationalities staying over here and have businesses and things like that. Um, why aren't they talking about them? Why are they talking about Haitians at the border? Why are they talking about other people coming in uh, through the border and how they're stealing jobs and stuff like that? Why aren't they talking about the ones who haven't renewed their visa? Because they have an agenda. Um, how do you go? How do you go by being sovereign? How do you apply for it and whatnot? Um, so no one person can be sovereign. Um, nation, nations have sovereignty. Okay, sovereignty is invested or vested in nations. So no one person is sovereign over the next. Is the sovereignty rests or lies with the nation. So the key is to uh, proclaim and declare your nationality, and then start exemplifying or living out national principles. Okay. Um, right. And so you see the switch. Everything must return back to the source. So you see how a lot of the colonizers came and they set up shop. They set up a lot of the um, statutes around the different territories and monuments, and they set up the different corporations to help run this. And a lot of our people helped them to get to where they are today. They didn't just overtake us and we were so powerless and did nothing. we have people that betrayed us as well. But you see, on a low level, they will remove statutes, uh, and we get so morally excited because we say that's a victory, um, which it is, but it's not true victory, because then we need to start talking about deportation and start talking about giving us our land back and stuff like that. And so everything must return to the source. So they're removing a lot of the statutes that are have been placed. A lot of the de facto government that is running uh, all of us into the position that we are now, down to the ground. They are losing power and crumbling. So it all must return back to the hands of the mothers and fathers of civilization. We are not part of civilization because we created civilization. We are part of humanity, um, a higher level. And so civilization is for those who are uncivilized. And we had to civilize those who are in power now, and that actually teach them law, principles, different types of laws, so that they can actually exist. And so they united on the grounds that if we don't unite, we will actually die. And that's actually what they continue to do, unite or die. And so it's up to us. Earth is calling for us to step up and come back into rulership, mathematically, scientifically, um, you name it. Many different subject matters across the board. Earth is calling for the original people to come back into power. In On a subconscious level, we're aware of that, but on a conscious level, we're not. So it's time for us to relearn these principles, especially with this social engineered shutdown. This is the best time to relearn and get back into those principles that we once had, like jurisprudence, law, true chronology of time, studying the true ways of running government. Okay, so this is the best time to do it now. And as you can see, the switch from uh, Columbus Day and all of these different things to Indigenous People Day, for those who are in Canada, what we call Canaan's land, you're there. Uh, they actually made this switch. It's a great day to discuss these topics with your loved ones, or for some, it will be night, um, to get things turned around. Okay, so we're going to continue with the part 3. Article 12. Indigenous people have the right to practice and revitalize their culture, tradition, and customs. This includes the right to maintain and protect and develop the past, present, and future manifestations of their cultures, such as archaeological and historical sites, artifacts, designs, ceremonies, technologies, and visual and performing arts and literature, as well as the right to the restitution of cultural, intellectual, religious, and spiritual property taken without their free and informed consent or in violation of their laws, tradition, and custom. This is heavy. Um, this one is heavy. We just touched on this one. It says that you have the right to revitalize your culture, traditions, and customs. And that's what you actually, this is a divine right that you are given by the universe right now. Um, as an offering, and will you take it is a different uh, subject, but it says it includes the right to maintain, protect, develop the past. It starts with the past. A lot of our people say, I don't want to hear about the problem, just let's get to the solution. We tired of hearing about the problem. The reason why we keep talking about the problem is because you're not learning from the problem, and you have a right to the past. The past is important, just as important as the present and the future, because he who controls the past controls the future and controls the present. So it's very important that we do not forget about the past. Okay, um, actually Saturn rules over the past, Uranus rules over the future. Uh, to be in harmony with both of these planets right now is actually preferable, so that you can get a grip on the past and learn true corrective history, versus episodic history, learning through episodes. Um, And so it says archaeological and historical sites, artifacts, designs, ceremonies, technologies, and visual and performing arts and literature, which is all a part of restitution, not reparations. Reparations means I steal everything in your house, I steal your house, I steal everything underneath your house, outside of your house. And then when you wake up and say, damn, I think this is my stuff. I think my grandmothers and them lived up in here. And I say, oh, yeah, he's starting to get close. She's starting to find them documents. Okay, well, I'll tell you what, I'm gonna give you. You found out we messed up, so what I'm gonna give you is um, two pieces of furniture from the house and some clothes. I'm gonna give you that ancient mirror that your grandmother used to sit at and look in. And you want two cars? I'm gonna give you two cars in the driveway, and I'm gonna also give you a bike so you can ride to the park as well. That's reparations. Okay, you don't want reparations. You want restitution. Restitution means to restore in full. Give me the entire house. Give me everything that you made in interest on the house, and give me all other um, accoutrements that's attached to the house. So this is huge. This is a big mind shift from reparations. Reparations does not do the job. You want restitution. Restitution deals with restoring in full and then some. Okay, so let's stop talking about reparations. Let's correct our concepts and speak the correct language of restitution. Okay. Okay, so that's what we're going to actually focus on in this age. Article 13, Indigenous people have the right to manifest, practice, develop, and teach their spiritual and religious traditions, customs, and ceremonies, the right to maintain, protect, and have access and privacy to their religious and cultural sites, the right to the use and control of ceremonial objects, and the right to the repatriation of human remains. States shall take effective measures in conjunction with the indigenous peoples concerned to ensure that indigenous sacred places, including burial sites, be preserved, respected, and protected. This is huge because a lot of our people, we when we transition and pass away, peace and love, no Washington, man. When we pass away, a lot of our people are going to churches. Even if you are not a member of the church, you're still getting buried by pastors who have allegiance to the state of corporation. And you might say, well, how do they have a allegiance with the state of when church and state is separate? Well, when you go to get married, what does the preacher say? What does the pastor say? The bishop, the deacon, what do they say? Uh, I now marry you.
Lawfully wedded wife.
That's right. Your lawfully wedded wife, I now pronounce you man and woman by the power vested in me through the state of. So they just told you who they're working for, who gives them their vested power. Not God, not Jesus, not Yahweh, Yahweh, not any of them. They just told you who is doing it. And so they say that this power vested is coming from the state of. Now, you have the right to have your own burial grounds, which a lot of our people don't have our own burial grounds, so they're getting buried in the church, which we find out uh, who owns the body once you go? The coroner. Who owns your estate, the physical estate, the flesh, when you go? It is the Secretary of State, it is the Attorney General, it is the coroner. They actually are taking the bodies from the ground and actually cycling or reusing them, the organs, the hair, everything. And so when you go to the graveyards, you think that they are burying them 6 feet under, and that's not true. And we talked about this before, B Miles, when you go to a grave site, they're actually burying them at 3 feet, okay, because of all of the weather the storms, all these things are pounding on the ground. And if you don't have that lift, you actually um, you don't get that 6 feet. You get 3. Okay, and a lot of times what's happening, they're taking these bodies and they are uh, disposing of them, reusing them, things like that. But that's a whole nother topic. That's a lot of stuff going on with that. But this is why we need to get back into the rights of the people so that we can start to change this and use these principles and concepts to restructure our own government for our own people. This is the time that we're in now, the age of Aquarius. Get information, study, and put it into use. Um, Article 14, and then this will close out part 3. Indigenous people have the right to revitalize, use, develop, and transmit to future generations their histories, languages, oral traditions, philosophies, writing systems, and literatures, and to designate and retain their own names for communities, places, and person. States shall take effective measures whenever any right of indigenous people may be threatened to ensure this right is protected and also to ensure that they can understand and be understood in political, legal, and administrative proceedings where necessary through the provision of interpretation or by other appropriate means. Okay, so this is very crucial, very important. Um, because when you talk about the language, when you talk about your histories, your oral traditions and philosophies and writing system, you're speaking about your culture, and culture is in the language. So if you don't speak your own language, or at least write or have your own language system, your culture is stripped from you. And so when we enslaved the Europeans or the Albions, we took everything from them but their tongue. When nature took its course and everything was reversed, they took everything, including our tongue. And so this is why we're in a situation today where we consciously don't remember uh, a lot of these things that we once knew, but it's still embedded in our genes, and we're able to subconsciously remember. So, for example, um, we know when people say, "What's a good uh, what's a good source to have in your diet?" And we talked about this the other day too, B Miles, how a good source is to have good people around. That's a good source for your diet. Um,
Facts.
yeah, because they affect the energy of your food. And
Mm.
when when you're angry, you produce NaCl, which is table salt. And so on a subconscious level, when people get upset, we say, "Damn, why are you salty?" So we know subconsciously this science, but consciously we don't make the connection to say, "I remember stuff from the past. You have the oldest genes or DNA on the earth, uh, and you have all this stuff embedded in you." Um, so this is a huge reason why you should also not forget the past, because it's always coming back out. I know people say that uh, the Egyptians were evil and this and that, but that's not true either. Uh, there's a lot of control systems in place to keep you from your science, your histories, your culture, your language, and so this is why it's very important to remember these things. So that closes out part 3. And we have any questions so far after reading part 3? Okay. Any question?
Any questions from the chat family? Any questions?
All right. So we're good on that. So let's look at part 4. Indigenous children have the right to all levels and forms of education of the state. Now, I'm not recommending that you take that because you know about the control, but you have a right to all forms of it. So when they try to keep you out of these honor societies and advanced studies and things like that, you still have a right to it. All indigenous people also have the right, and the all indigenous people also have this right and the right to establish and control the educational system and institutions, provide education in their own languages in a manner appropriate to their cultural methods of teaching and learning. Indigenous children living outside their communities have the right to be provided access to education in their own culture and language. States shall take effective measures to provide appropriate resources for these purposes. So again, this is all written in the rights of indigenous people. Um, you have a right to your not just language and your history, but also to education and your own forms of it, which I think we should be actually putting that at the forefront right now, is the most important thing, because if we can actually teach our people their language and their histories, their culture, we can begin to correct what's on the surface of the mind. Um, okay. And you say, okay, you say English is a confusing language. Yeah, English is a uh, equivocal language. So it can have many meanings, but remember, you got to always remember etymology and root to the word. So when you look at, uh, for example, look at um, nice. When you say someone is nice, uh, connotatively, meaning the slang of the word nice, or not the real true meaning of the word nice. It means that today you might be saying as a term of endearment, but when you look at the denotative, the actual meaning that denotes the true origin and true meaning of the word, nice means foolish, stupid, silly. So it's not good to call people nice. So when you're uh, giving a gift to someone, for example, and you are giving this gift and they don't know why that they're receiving this gift, um, they're doing it in such a way that's foolish, that's slick, that's cunning, and it's be like, that's that was nice how he did that. It's just he just pulled something over your head, and that's what deludes to the connotative, and we throw these words out all the time. Or you might say, that shirt that you wearing, that's tight, yo. But back then, tight literally, and it still means that it's squeezing your body, not that it looks good or appealing. So, getting to the root of the words, etymology, the origin, this will help us to really decode and not be fooled. So, Article 16, Indigenous people have the right to have the dignity and diversity of their cultures, traditions, histories, and aspirations appropriately reflected in all forms of education and public information. Uh, States shall take effective measures in consultation with the indigenous people concerned to eliminate prejudice and discrimination and to promote tolerance, understanding, and good relations among indigenous people in all segments of society. So the state of is supposed to be working uh, hand in hand with your uh, nation state to bring these things into existence. But we see that we don't have a functioning government here for our people right now. We have a lot of organizations and non-governmental organizations, which does not qualify a government. Does not mean we have a government because we have these organizations. Article 17, Indigenous people have the right to establish their own media. And then we're on a media platform right now. BMOS 84 Conscious Channel News Network. That's their own media in their own languages. They also have the right to equal access to all forms of non-indigenous media. So the media that's controlled and ruled by uh, Rothschild, Soros, Uh, you got equal access to having your platform be that big, but we know, of course, that would be a conflict of interest. Um, Article 18, and this closes out Part 4. Indigenous people have the right to enjoy fully all rights established under international labor law and national labor legislation. Indigenous individuals have the right not to be subjected to any discriminatory conditions of labor, employment, or salary. So if you're trying to uh, apply for employment and they asking you for the state issued driver's license or ID, social security, birth certificate, all these instruments, there's supposed to be other forms under category B and C under the form you fill out for that job that fits your that fits your qualification, and they cannot discriminate under international law for you not using these things. And as far as paying taxes, the employer is supposed to pay the taxes, not you. And this is where having a government in place to help the nationals have a redress for their grievances will help in these situations. But clearly, we see our people rather create organizations versus form a government. And I know it can be tough to come together when we have so many differences, uh, and it can be frustrating. You got a lot of people with a lot of different information, but we got to look at this thing as unite or die, just like they do. So that closes out part 4. We have any questions or dialogue for um, this section?
Any questions in the chat, family? Any questions? Any questions from the chat?
That's right, brother Oculus Bay. He is. B Miles been giving up updates on a lot of different a lot of weather wars that's taking place, a lot of things going on, and it's so interesting how you don't really see all this stuff in the mainstream. They just want you to continue to go on to think everything is going to return back to normal, while clearly you see all these things taking place around you. Um, and so that's a very commendable thing that you're doing, B Miles. So,
Thank you, brother.
oh yeah. Um, so how do we begin to come together? Uh, yeah, so we have to come together on principles. Have to come together in national principles. I know everybody not gonna necessarily vibe with or desire to build with, but having these principles in place as a standard, so where you have your differences, other people have their differences, you can still put your feelings aside and still build based off of the principles that unite the, the parties involved. Um, I will be correcting or getting rid of the slave master's name for my family. Are there any good suggestions? I am thinking El Shaddai. Yeah, but whatever resonates with your um, soul, whatever resonates with you as far as um, choosing your appellation or your title, that's up to you. Um, so that would be up to you. Okay. Uh, Part 5, and we're almost, wow. Yeah, we got a couple more here. Part 5. Indigenous people have the right to participate fully, if they so choose, at all levels of decision making and matters which may affect their rights, lives, and destinies through representatives chosen by themselves in accordance with their own procedures, as well as to maintain and develop their own indigenous uh, decision making institutions. So, first of all, this just tells you right here that we have the right to participate fully on things that's going on with the jabs, okay, with this whole employment shutdown, with the food shortages, with the water pollution, with the air pollution. On many different levels, we have a say at all levels: county, city, state, federal, you name it, international. We have a right to participate. And they say there's the protocol through um, yourselves or having our own representatives. Now, we have to put a procedure in place to do that. And so, since we have this right, we have to figure out how to come together to make this manifest. So, when you say, I don't like him because he got on Jordans and I'm a LeBron fan, or I don't like him because his shirt too tight, or I don't like such and such because they did me wrong. Uh, this is bigger than all of that right now, um, especially with the time we're in. So, we got to come together on some principles so that uh, we can be able to make a change. We've been telling people to stock up for some time, and you starting to see that that's actually coming into fruition. Where now workers are being told that's on the ports not to come into work to get the food out. So this is where government will be very effective for our own people right now. Article 20, Indigenous people have the right to participate fully, if they so choose, through procedures determined by them in devising legislative or administrative measures that may affect them. So if I say, they say that, oh, I want to uh, go ahead and get the children the jab as early as 5, we have a right to um, implement legislation or procedures to prevent that. Okay. They say if you don't take the jab, then you're getting fired. We have, again, principles and concepts in place so that we can address that. All of this will be addressed through having our own de jure government, our own real, true government. Uh, Article 21. Indigenous people have the right to maintain and develop their political, economic, and social systems to be secure in the enjoyment of their own measures of subsistence and development, and to engage freely in all their traditional and other economic activities. Indigenous peoples who have been deprived of their means of subsistence and development are entitled to just and fair compensation. So, um, when you've been paying more than other people on the block, when you've been paying more taxes, all these different things, you have a right to be compensated um, and entitled to just and fair compensation. Article 22, indigenous peoples have the right to special measures for the immediate, effective, and continuing improvement of their economic and social conditions, including in the areas of employment, vocational training, and restraining housing, sanitation, health, and social security. Particular attention shall be paid to the rights and special needs of indigenous elders, women, youth, children, and disabled persons. So, again, highlighting the fact that we need government structure because we get so used to depending on the colonizers, the elitists to provide. This is saying you can take it right back in the hands of yourselves. Article 23, Indigenous people have the right to determine and develop priorities and strategies for exercising their right to development. In particular, Indigenous people have the right to determine and develop health, housing, and other economic and social programs affecting them, and, as far as possible, to administer such programs through their own institutions. So, you want welfare, you want Social Security, we can set it up ourselves. And we have the land, and from the land you have wealth. So we don't need anything from anybody. We just need to come together. And I always say that your remedy is our unity. So we got to come together, and we're going to have our differences, work them out, and then we begin to get remedy. Article 24, this is the last one of part 5. Indigenous people have the right to the traditional medicines, okay, for you smokers, okay, for you peace pipers. Uh, Traditional medicines and health practices, including the right to protection of vital medicinal plants, those who got cataract. Okay, that's it. That's for animals and minerals. They also had a right to access without any discrimination to all medicinal or medical institutions health services and medical care. Now, I'm not a big advocate for a lot of the what do you call it? Medicinal cannabis and things they have now because of the stuff they lace it with and stuff like that. Um, that's not even real what they call it, but I really suggest that you just consider that. But if you decide that you like those type of things and want to experience that, you can set up your own dispensaries and stuff from your own government, your own people. So any questions before we move to the next one? And we almost done got part 6 and 7. Let's see, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And that was a short. Any question? I checked out the clip from your channel pertaining to trust. Is the UCC also effective in building and protecting generational wealth? Um, well, Uniform Commercial Code is for uh, the commercial laws of uh, international uh, commerce, okay, so to speak. And those are codes. And in one sense, some of those applications of the codes may work and apply, but you still run the risk of forfeiting or waiving your birthrights. So it would be better to go to the Uniform Commercial Law, which supersedes Commercial Code, which would be the treaty and supreme law of the land. So there's treaties that we have um, that under international law supersedes any other code statute that comes underneath. Codes and statutes are supposed to support law. So it's best to start studying from international law and then applying national principles. Okay, I don't use the UCCs other than to reserve my rights. People should learn their birth chart to find what role best to play in society. That's right, exactly. 100% agree. You definitely should get your natal chart read. It's not no horoscope where they tell you on Wednesday if you blink twice you're gonna fall out and bust your head. It's none of that spooky stuff. Okay. You might read some of that stuff, and then they say you read an article and say if you turn around too fast, your heart gonna stop. I mean that's common sense. But actually getting your chart read, it actually plots the course of what's going to take place because everything is already written in the stars. So I do your natal chart readings, and so if you need help with that, email me. We can help you with that. And so I also do the forecast, help you to see what's going to happen or take place throughout the week. These are ancient practices and science that our ancestors used to help us navigate and control the world. Warren Buffett said this: millionaires don't use astrology, billionaires do. And that's because you have to know key moves to be able to control the market and control the world. When I was in India, that's a way of life for them, astrology. All right. Um, I have a question. How are we going to come together? Again, principles. We can start coming together. Um, we have classes. We can start coming together and start organizing, just like that. Start putting our people in position based off their natal chart to be in governmental positions and seeing where they best would suit the nation and realizing we have to reteach our people about national principles and standards. So it all starts with classes. Okay. How do we get these treaties publicly known to our people and those and also to those at power? Yes. So a lot of these treaties are already public law and already known internationally. So, for example, the Treaty of Peace and Friendship of 1786, 1787, and then 1836. That's a treaty that's internationally known between the Moors and the United States. This is already our land. Type in Title 29, United States Code in Google for information on what they call Indians today and how they would be um, Moors. Okay, you'll see their origin, and so you'll see how these treaties, like the Jay Treaty, the Penn Treaty, all these different treaties connect to you and your ancestors. Okay, and you say, "Are we here on Earth as punishment?" No, I wouldn't say punishment, um, because we came here to learn lessons so that our soul can grow and develop. So all of the things that you experience, you contracted to come back here to experience that. And for some people, you came to grow and evolve so you can help push humanity forward. And then others came back to devolve and push humanity backwards. And so that's what we're dealing. We're seeing this great earthquakes, all these things take place because as within, we see this happening on the inside. All these contradiction ideas and ideologies is actually happening without, and it's actually happening up there. So as above, so below. So we're here to do our specific role. And if you get your natal chart, you'll see where the sun is. The sun is the governor of all the planets. It tells you what your purpose is in life and your aptitude in life. Okay, when do we start? We could start right now if you want it. Well, I didn't say if you want it, because we don't have no choice. You're being forced to start. Um, my email address. I'm trying to get you one that's not full. Nation building 9, not the number 9 at gmail.com. Nation building the number 9 at gmail.com. That's right, the one that's not full. He said, "You see that? I never smoked a day in my life. I'm just saying for you, for the for the smokers. I know that's big to our people. Uh, I have a newborn baby that would be the first step in freeing my daughter from the ignorance. Or what would be the first step in freeing my daughter from the ignorance perpetrated on our people by the system?" Start with self. I would start with yourself because the condition of the mother is the condition of the child. So if you are in a certain mindset and condition, um, a lot of times this is a projection for your child. So you definitely need to start with self and then uh, start learning jurisprudence, law, true world history, and sequences of events, and going back to your ancient sciences, which is astrology, cosmology, um, agriculture, horticulture. Do you have a secondary plan for information to prepare if we have a nuclear war? Um, a nuclear war. If they nuke us, then we're gone. So ain't no need for no plans, right? So, uh, should there be a website to begin? Yep, that's why we need all your talents. We need everybody's talents, gifts to add to this big project because no one person can do it, and we need everybody to partake in this. This is a serious matter. We need everybody to be hands on. I know we get some people say, "All right, y'all figure it out. I'll join y'all when y'all get it up." Right now, nature is saying you can't afford to do that. If you have hyenas attacking the hell out of 4 lions and it's 80 to 90 hyenas, you're going to need your lions, the rest of them, to step up and say, we need to uh, fix this. You know, that's right. We have to get on code. That's right. Everybody else is doing it in these times. So we're not exempt from that. We got to get on code as well. Um, that's the biggest thing right now. Okay. Um, okay. So let's close out with okay, let's close out. Okay, part 6. Article 25. Indigenous people have the right to maintain and strengthen their distinctive spiritual and material relationship with the lands, territories, waters, and coastal seas, and other resources which they have traditionally owned or otherwise occupied or used, and to uphold their responsibilities to future generations in this regard. Okay, there you have it. Again, it's all coming back to you. Um, you gotta be ready to run it and be good stewards over it. Marsha Richards said, "How can we contribute from the UK?" Um, well, you guys are going through the same experience there. Uh, Many of our people who have that designation as indigenous or aboriginal or para-autochthonous in your case, meaning you come from the rocks over there, all have an obligation and duty to fix this thing. And so you guys have to start organizing where you are as well. And so reteaching and having classes and rebuilding to get everybody on the same page. We need our government, we need our lands, we need businesses, we need to be industrious. So um, Article 26, indigenous people have the right to own, develop, control, and use the lands and territories, including the total environment of the lands, air, waters, coastal sea, sea ice, flora, and fauna, and other resources which they have traditionally owned or otherwise occupied or used. Theirs includes the right to the full recognition of their laws, traditions, and customs, land tenure systems, and institutions for the development and management of resources, and the right to effective measures by states to prevent any interference with, alienation of, or encroachment upon these rights. So, this is what we need to do, everybody. We really need to get back to the principle of trust. And trust meaning setting up trust so that we can uh, start to control our destiny. You see, the wealthy, the elite have trust established, and they actually get the lands, and that's how they actually doing a lot of the things they're doing. Okay. You say, what about land patents? Be careful with land patents because land patent uh, does not uh, denote true control. Okay, remember who created the patent office? It was the Europeans, the Albions. So we were always famous for creating the invention, and who come along to steal? They create the patent. Okay, so just be careful with that. Um, and this is Article 27. Indigenous people have the right to restitution of the lands, territories, and resources which they have traditionally owned or otherwise occupied or used, and which have been confiscated, occupied, used, or damaged without their free and informed consent. How many of our hoods is being destroyed? How many of our land uh, territories is being destroyed? We have a right to these, whether they're damaged or not, or being occupied or used or not. Where this is not possible, they have the right to just and fair compensation. So if they can't give us back the land, we have the right to be uh, compensated justly and fairly. Unless otherwise freely and agreed upon by the peoples concerned, compensation shall take the form of lands, territories, and resources, uh, equal in quality, size, and legal status. So we want the land back. And I don't think anybody on here listening will be a fool and say, no, we don't want the land. Just give me 100 or give me $1 million. Give me 1 million Federal Reserve notes. I don't think we would do that because we know that the paper comes from the land. So we want the land in full, right? So uh, they're not going to trick us on that one. Some of us. Article 28. Indigenous people have the right to the conservation, restoration, and protection of the total environment and the productive capacity of their lands, territories, and resources, as well as to assistance for this purpose from states and through international cooperation. Military activity shall not take place in the lands and territories of indigenous peoples unless otherwise freely agreed upon by the peoples. Concerned states shall take effective measures to ensure that no storage or disposal of hazardous material shall take place in the lands and territories of indigenous people. So you have a lot of the pollution. You have a lot of the dumping in the ocean. You have a lot of the uh, chemtrails. All of this is a violation. States shall also take effective measures to ensure, as needed, the programs for monitoring, maintaining, and restoring the health of indigenous peoples, as developed and implemented by the peoples affected by such materials, are duly implemented. So they injure you, it's their duty to make it right. Article 29. Indigenous peoples are entitled to the recognition of the full ownership, control, and protection of their culture and intellectual property. So, cultural property, intellectual property. So, you and him making a dance on TikTok, and next thing you know, you see Albions and Europeans do the same dance with the same beat, and then their stuff get millions of views, and yours getting 1 view, 2 views, 10 views. You have a right to your intellectual property, your cultural property, your culture. You have in your culture hip hop, R&B, all of the genres, even rock and roll. All of this stuff is yours, and so you have a right to maintain the cultural integrity of it. So it's all up to you to activate the right, though. They have the right to special measures to control, develop, and protect their sciences, technologies. Hip hop is a science, technologies, and cultural manifestations, including human and other genetic resources, seeds, medicines, knowledge of the properties of fauna and flora, oral traditions, literatures, designs, and visuals, and performing arts. So here you have um, these genetic resources, seeds. When you talk about seeds, they're now telling farmers to get rid of the seeds and not to use certain seeds that will reproduce naturally, but get synthetic and artificial seeds. That's a threat to humanity, okay? Because you're eating genetically modified or hybrid foods that is affecting your DNA sequence, which is affecting your ability to maintain information and be able to have a capacity to output more information so that you can actually evolve as humans on this earth. So that's a huge um, violation. And then to close out, this is Article 30 of Part uh, 6. Indigenous people have the right to determine and develop priorities and strategies for the development or use of their lands, territories, and other resources, including the right to require that states obtain their free and informed consent prior to the approval of any project affecting their land. So before they start building skyscrapers, these box structures that do nothing for your consciousness or your pineal gland, your hypothalamus gland or pituitary gland, it actually calcifies and shuts it down. They have to consult you. Um, so that's why you see all of us in the hood and we're around these box structures, closing consciousness. And then you go to better neighborhoods, they have these pyramids and triangles and sacred geometry taking place. Um, it actually affects your consciousness. And that's by design. And so the states obtain their free and informed consent prior to the approval of any project affecting their land, territories, and other resources, particularly in connection with the development, utilization, or exploitation of mineral, water, or other resources. Now, they've been adding minerals to the water system. They've been adding alleged uh, products to the toothpaste and things like that, which is shutting down consciousness. So they have to consult you before they do these things. But how are they going to consult you if you don't have a government set up? And that's the key. Um, Pursuant to agreements with the indigenous peoples concerned, just and fair compensation shall be provided for any such activities and measures taken to mitigate adverse environmental, economic, social, cultural, or spiritual impact. So when I go outside, I'm in the hood, and I'm trying to talk to my brothers about consciousness and trying to help them to comprehend who they are and bring them into national principles. And we all can't focus because you got this smog that's coming up from the ground. And you got all these gases that's happening. based off of the structures that they're building, we need to be consulted about their methods. Okay, we need to be consulted about the different things they're using to get rid of this stuff. And this is why this has become a huge problem. The bigger problem is that we don't have a government. So when we look at us having, being impoverished or and having a huge poverty gap between us and Albions or Europeans, when you look at us in jail, you look at the death rates, you look at all these different things. These are not the problem. This is the result of us not having a government. So the key is getting a government. And that closes out part 6. So we got any questions or dialogue for that?
Any questions? Excuse me, sorry, y'all. Any questions from the chat? Any questions from the chat?
How do we counteract this? Can anyone tell me? Yes, the answer is start to spread the news about what's going on. Tell people that we need to come together, form a government, and let's all, start, putting in the work. And I know it's a lot of work that takes place, but that's where we can start. That's right. Thanks, brother. Our own government is needed right now. Well, you could say nothing's happening, but you gotta be in the actual uh, fire. We in the kitchen cooking, so we in here, making food, and the people that's hungry, waiting for the food to be done. It don't seem like we, cooking or doing nothing because we getting the ingredients together, but that's where we at. We're in the kitchen right now. We need more people come assist us and help us. That's right, Marsha Richards. Uh, Peace, brother Malone. Uh, are you good with land for reparations? No, we discussed that earlier. Not reparations. We want restitution. Is a sultan less? So say it again. Is a sultan less empire still an empire? I think. Well, I don't know what you're trying to say. I think I know what you're trying to say, but ask it again so I can be clear. What would be good land to buy? I remember during the last live you spoke highly of Philadelphia and the Liberty Bell, also Mississippi. Well, the thing is, you don't have to buy land, quote unquote, because this is your land. Um, your ancestors was already here before they even talked about some slave trade through the diaspora effect. You already here, and so it's not about buying land. You have a claim through birthright and your national status and your political origin to the land. You don't have to. Well, you can make your claim, and that's what governments do. What is our ancient arts or practices? Astrology, cosmology, uh, jurisprudence, agriculture, horticulture, um, biology, chemistry, um, physics, uh, you know, building is our science, mound building, pyramid building, nation building. Okay. Is a sultanate uh, empire still considered an empire considered there's no sultan? Oh, okay. Yes. So if there's no sultan and that title or that position isn't filled, that doesn't mean that the office still doesn't exist because those positions and titles in government is a part of your estate. It's a part of your inheritance. So when you say the governor, the secretary of state, the attorney general, the president, all of these different things, these are titles that are a part of your birthright, your estate. So no matter if these people transition or pass away, these people are acting, and it is still a part of your birthright, no matter if they're there or not. So you're talking about a sultan, you're talking about a potentate, you're talking about these different positions of ruling. They're still a part of your birthright and estate. So if they're not filled, this is why we need to come together so we can start to formulate these things and rebuild it. This land is originally owned by Black Native Indians. Well, I would say do your research. Look at Title 29 United States Code, and go ahead and look at some of those treaties that we mentioned. The J Treaty, Treaty of Peace and Friendship, and then check the land records, and you'll see. That's right. I'm going to get in the kitchen. Any organization, Jacksonville, Florida. We have people in Florida, but the thing is, we got to start getting people together and organizing more. So that's the key. And so far, we've been teaching classes, and that's pretty much where we started. And we got many people from different territories, from China, the UK, all over. Canaan's land, which is Canada. And so that's where we decided to start. And so that's a way we will start. And we have a few more left if we can. Yep, Alabama. That's right. Brother Malone on the live right now. He's from Alabama. All right, there you go. Brother Larry, right there. He's just right above you. He's from Alabama. There you go. Kia.
You see it, kid?
Yep, there you go. Okay. Okay, so we're going. So it's literally this one left, and then we could just close out because it's. I'll read you some of the. This is part 7, but I want to jump from part 7 to. Let's look at this. Some of the highlights. Of the general policy. This is some of the highlights. This is part 1 of general policy, article 1. This convention applies to A. Tribal peoples, independent countries whose social, cultural, and economic conditions distinguish them from other sections of the national community, and whose status is regulated wholly or partially by their own customs or traditions, or by special laws or regulations. B. People in independent countries who are regarded as indigenous on account of their descent from the populations which inhabited the country or geographical region to which the country belongs at the time of conquest or colonization or the establishment of present state boundaries, and who, irrespective of their legal status, retain some or all of their own social, economic, and cultural and political institutions. Number 2, self-identification as indigenous or tribal shall be regarded as a fundamental criterion for determining the groups to which the provisions of this convention apply. 3, the use of the term peoples, in quote, in this convention shall not be construed as having any implication as regards the rights which may attach to the term under international law. And then you start to see here further in the policy, they start touching on land. They start touching on recruitment and conditions of employment. And they also start touching on vocational training, handcrafts, rural industries, uh, social security and health, education and means of communication, administration, general provisions, and then the final provisions. Um, so we'll open it up if anybody have any more questions, because we definitely could do like a part two to this, but this is just a foundation to get you started, you know? So,
Yep. We're gonna go with like two or three more questions, and then we're gonna close it out, fam.
mhm.
We're gonna go with like three more questions, and we're gonna close it out.
Okay, you said, can an app be created where we all can meet at once? Yep, we need some web developers, people who are talented, skilled with that to help us anyway. Do we have to become a nation? If so, how many of us is needed? Becoming a nation is definitely something that we need to do. Um, and um, how many? You could look at the Montevideo Convention for the criteria for nation states, and it talks about the population, how much is needed. So if you take into account all the people that look like you um, in your territory, and you start joining them with other territories, this creates your population. So Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Arkansas, Texas, Florida, California, you name it. This creates your population. Um, how do we get nationalized? So again, nationality starts with knowing who you are in the mind first, and then so it means when you say declare, based off the meaning of declare, it means to be clear in your mind of who you are. It's kind of like when they say I declare war, you're clear of who you are and who you want to fight, and then you make that declaration. So when you say I declare my nationality as um, a Moor or any other nations, you have a right to do that. And you got to know the steps and procedures in place. So right now we need to build a population of how many people we have so we can start to do that. And then last question.
We're gonna do one more question.
Um, he said, "What do we do about the camps and us being monitored?" Um, so with the camps, again, this is where you want to act fast and take those measures, because whether you are declared national or not, you still can be taken. So that's why it's best to put those public officials on notice beforehand. And you see, they're all actors anyway, so put them on notice of who you are and your claim, and then prepare yourself physically um, for the crash or the injured social engineered uh, crash. And then our people will have separate land. No, this is our land, so it'll be like instead of you paying taxes, they pay taxes to you. This is your land. You're the Aboriginal. So
Cool, good man. Yeah, man. Yes, fam. We're gonna close it out. Noble Isaiah L. Want to say thank you for reading that. My great young brother, man. I got to tell you, man, that information was very refreshing. Yes, we had 200 in the chat tonight, and I definitely will say very good work, man. That was a lot of great information. We've been doing it for like 2 hours, fam. And so, like I said, I mean, this was really great information on Happy Indigenous Day. And
that's
like
right.
I said, any more remarks before you go more?
No, just definitely grateful for the opportunity, and thank you everybody for tuning in. And again, happy Indigenous Peoples Day, and let's continue to build.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I'm gonna call you once I jump off here. All right.
All right. Yep. Okay.
All right, got you, fam. So to those of y'all who was late, go back and check out the rewatch and all that. And I definitely will say, family, peace, enjoy, and happy Indigenous Peoples Day, fam. Good night.
Peace and love.